This is part 23 of the ongoing AS and A level Java series, and in this episode we are going to be looking at scope. So basically scope refers to the visibility or the lifetime of a particular variable that you declare within your program, and scope is determined by the blocks or the body of a particular class or a particular method. So like in this case, you see here that we have a class declaration and the name of the class is scope. So if you wanted to declare a variable that is going to be visible within the rest of the class, we can declare it anywhere in between the body of the class declaration, but of course it has to be outside of a method, right? So that would make that variable have global scope. So maybe let's just go ahead and declare a string called color 1. Then we'll set this to green. All right. Then maybe what we can do is we can create a main method. Then inside of the main method, we are going to want to system.out.println. Then what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to print out color 1, right? But well, I should quickly mention that if you do it like this, you're not going to, the code is not going to compile, because you will see that here we have an error, right? And it's going to tell us that you cannot make a static reference to a non-static color 1, is it? So I know that we haven't really looked at classes and objects. Maybe we are going to be looking at that in the upcoming tutorials, but maybe just to fix this quickly, what we can do is we can make the color declaration static, is it? Because basically static is going to make a particular variable or a particular method belong to the class. So if we make it static, then we declare the string and we assign the value of green, and we try to print it, or we try to call that particular variable within this method, it's going to work. All right, so let me just go ahead and run the code, and you see that we get green down there in the console, and as you would expect. So basically that's just an example of global scope. Now let's look at the other type of scope, which is called local scope. So local scope is whereby a variable is it's only visible within a particular method, right? So local scope would be something like maybe say if I were to come right here and I declare an integer called lucky number. So maybe let's say lucky number it's 8, right? Then what I can do is within this particular method, if I try to system.out.println, you would realize that I get if I try to print lucky number, as you'd expect, you would get 8, is it? So that's an example of local scope. So this particular variable, since it was declared within this particular code block that is between line 8 and line 15, it means that its scope or its visibility is only within this particular code block. If I were to go out of this particular code block and try to access that particular variable with the name lucky number, I wouldn't I would get an error actually. So let me just create another method called public static void, maybe say display stuff. Then what I can do is now I can try to system.out.println. Then I want you to notice what happened here. Automatically, when I try to print to print something onto the screen, my IDE automatically suggested that I should take this color 1 and print it right here. So the reason why this is the case is because, remember, color has been declared within the class. So it means that any method that I am going to declare within the class as well, it has access to this particular to this color 1 variable. So basically this one is global scope. So what happens if I try to print lucky number right there? Let's actually try that, and you see that I get that red squiggly line underneath my variable name, and it's not it's going to say that lucky number cannot be resolved to a variable. So this is because lucky number has not been declared in this scope. It's only visible within the main method, so we do not have access to that particular method, that particular variable, so it's not going to work. So the only variable that we actually have access to is the global variable, which is color 1. And if we do that, you realize that the error will be gone. And if we actually run this code, you realize that we get green, then 8. So the reason why we are not getting this code is not being run is because we haven't called this method. So we can simply call this method within main by just typing display stuff like that, and if we run it, you realize that we get green printed one more time again after we've printed 8 there. So that's the concept of global and local scope. Then maybe one more thing that I should mention is also that you can declare, let's actually declare a public static void. Then maybe let's make it maybe let's make it a double. Then let's call it calculate distance, right? So here I want to demonstrate another concept of local scope. So variables with local scope, you do not necessarily just have to declare them within the body of a particular method. But if you declare a variable as a parameter, right, that is right here within the parenthesis of the method header right there, it's also going to have local scope. That is, it's also going to be visible in that particular method. So what I can do is I can declare maybe a double called since we want to calculate distance, we need speed. Then we also need a double that is called time. And what I can do is I can now come in here and say double speed equal double distance equal then distance is given by speed times time. So I can say speed multiplied by time, just like that. Then what I can do is then I can return distance. All right. Then I can then come in here and then call the calculate distance method. Then you can see that it's automatically picking lucky number there. So maybe what you can do is we can declare a double called S. Then we can set that to 12. Then we can have another double called T, and we can set that to say maybe 12 again. Then what we can do now is we can then come here and pass S and T as arguments to the calculate distance method right there. So that's what we're going to do. Then what we can then do is actually maybe let's just system.out this entire line right here. System.out.print line. And then we can just call the calculate distance within the print line method, so that it's going to print out our value or our calculated distance there. So basically the idea that I wanted to show here is that you see these variables that I have declared, these parameter declarations right here, these are the variables that have local scope. So since I have declared them within the parentheses of the method header on line 25, it means that they are visible within the body of the calculate distance method. Then once we close this particular or once we come to the end of this method body, these variables, they cease to exist, is it? So these variables right here in the function, in the method header, speed and time, they have local scope. Same as this lucky number right here, it is local scope. It's only going to be visible within the main method, and these are going to be only visible within the calculate distance method, right? So that's local scope. So local scope comes in two flavors. You can have a declaration right within the body, or you can have the declaration within the header or the method signature, as it were. Then global scope, it only comes in one flavor, as it were. So you declare it within a block, right? And it's going to be visible as long as you are still within that block. You can make reference to that particular variable, like you see in this case on line 8, that's where the declaration is, and on line 14 we're actually making use of that particular variable, as well as on line 22. All right, so I think that's just about it for this tutorial. So maybe let me just finish by running the code, and we should see what we get down there in the console. So we get green right? We get 8, then we get green, then finally we get 144. Is it? So I think that's just about it for this tutorial. I'll see you in the next one.